Lost in Space, 1965 to 1968, captured the imaginations of sci-fi fans with its thrilling adventures, lovable characters, and timeless catchphrases. The series became a cult classic, paving the way for future space exploration dramas. However, over the decades, many of the talented actors who brought the Robinson family and their intergalactic encounters to life have sadly passed away, some under heartbreaking circumstances. From the main cast to unforgettable guest stars, their contributions to television history remain unforgettable. In this tribute, we remember 42 Lost in Space actors who have tragically died, honoring their lives, careers, and lasting impact on the sci-fi genre. Guy Williams, who portrayed the brave and dedicated Dr. John Robinson in Lost in Space, 1965, took on the role at 41, embodying the stoic and intelligent patriarch of the Robinson family. His character was known for guiding his family through the dangers of space, using both wisdom and leadership. Off-screen, Williams faced numerous struggles in his personal life. His marriage to actress Janice Cooper, while initially filled with promise, eventually ended in divorce. Despite his professional success, Williams felt the weight of isolation, especially as his relationship with his son deteriorated. He found it difficult to find happiness in his later years, and in 1989, at the age of 65, he tragically passed away from a ruptured brain aneurysm. His death, sudden and unexpected, left behind an air of sadness, as it mirrored the emotional isolation he had quietly dealt with throughout his life.
Well, you happen to be a very bright and very talented boy.
Jonathan Harris, who portrayed the scheming yet ultimately sympathetic Dr. Zachary Smith in Lost in Space, 1965, was 51 when he started playing the role. Harris became synonymous with the character's combination of cowardice, wit, and reluctant heroism. While his career flourished on screen, his personal life was more troubled. Harris was married to Margaret for many years, but their relationship was strained and eventually ended in divorce. The lack of children left him feeling isolated, and he struggled with loneliness in his later years. Despite his fame, Harris found it hard to find lasting happiness, and he dealt with significant health problems as he aged. He passed away on November 3, 2002, at the age of 87, from a blood clot in his heart. His death, while marked by the end of a distinguished career, also reflected the deep personal challenges he faced, leaving behind a legacy of humor and complexity but a life shadowed by emotional pain.
Game until all of his circuits are operative.
Looks like he's doing kind of good to me.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
Mark Goddard, who played the valiant Major Don West in Lost in Space from 1965, was 29 when he first joined the cast, bringing a sense of daring and selflessness to his character. Known for his bravery and loyalty to the Robinson family, Goddard's career trajectory after the show, however, was not as fruitful as he had hoped. The roles that came his way after Lost in Space were far fewer, and he struggled with being typecast. His personal life mirrored his professional struggles. He went through a painful divorce from his first wife, Suzanne, which left him emotionally wounded. His later years were also marked by financial instability and a sense of unrealized potential. After enduring these challenges, Goddard passed away on October 10, 2023, at the age of 87, from pulmonary fibrosis. His death marked the end of a life that had seen both triumph and deep personal sorrow, with many opportunities left unfulfilled.
Do now.
Normally, I'd recommend we go through a week of thorough testing before venturing outside, but if we hope to find John alive,
We'd better start searching him.
Albert Salmi, who portrayed the adventurous Alonzo P. Tucker in Lost in Space, 1966, began his role at the age of 39, bringing a rugged charm to his character. Despite his on-screen persona, Salmi's personal life was far more complicated and tragic. His marriage to Marta was filled with emotional and physical turmoil, and although they tried to reconcile, the relationship ultimately broke down. In a shocking and heartbreaking turn, Salmi murdered his wife in a violent outburst before turning the weapon on himself in a murder-suicide on April 22, 1990, at the age of 63. The brutal nature of his death left a dark stain on his legacy, overshadowing the talent and charm he had displayed on screen. Salmi's life, full of promise and adventure, ended in a tragic spiral of violence and despair, leaving a painful memory for those who knew him and his fans.
Just points at the stone wall. You suppose we've reached the treasure? Aye, maybe. Dake, step up and give this here wall.
Leonard Stone, who portrayed the sly and opportunistic traitor Farnham in Lost in Space, 1967, was 44 years old when he first took on the role. Farnham was a self-serving character who was always scheming, often putting his own interests ahead of others and causing trouble for the Robinson family. In real life, Leonard faced a series of personal challenges that mirrored the complexity of his character. He was married twice, but both marriages ended in divorce, leaving him with unresolved emotional scars. Despite a steady acting career, Leonard's personal life remained filled with difficulties, including struggles with depression and a sense of unfulfillment. As he grew older, Leonard battled cancer, a disease that ultimately took his life. He passed away on November 2, 2011, at the age of 87. His death was a tragic end to a life full of unrealized potential and emotional pain.
Now, you stupid Earth creatures, now do you believe that I, Farnham B., am the greatest showman of the cosmos?
Michael Rennie, who portrayed the calm and authoritative keeper in Lost in Space, 1966, began his role at the age of 57, bringing depth and gravitas to the mysterious alien character. Rennie's earlier career had seen success in films like The Day the Earth Stood Still, but his personal life was less rewarding. He had been deeply affected by the death of his first wife, who passed away from cancer in 1953, and his second marriage ended in divorce, leaving him emotionally scarred. In his later years, Rennie's health began to decline, and he struggled with loneliness, finding little solace in his personal life despite his professional achievements. On June 10, 1971, he passed away at the age of 61 from an aortic aneurysm. His death, while not unexpected, marked the end of a life filled with both professional acclaim and personal sorrow, with his legacy as a talented actor overshadowed by the loneliness he faced in his final years.
You wish to ask me something, Will. You want to know how I learned to speak your language, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your planet has been communicating with its astronauts for years. I merely...
Marcel Hillaire, who portrayed the eccentric jumpman in Lost in Space, 1967, was 59 years old when he began the role. The jumpman was a quirky, resourceful figure, always coming to the Robinsons' aid with his repurposed items. However, Marcel's personal life was far more troubled and far less eccentric than the character he played. Marcel's career in Hollywood was never as successful as he had hoped, and his personal life was marked by repeated failed marriages and strained relationships. His financial troubles added to the weight of his emotional struggles, and he lived much of his later years in solitude, estranged from his children and family. Marcel's final years were filled with regret, both about his professional disappointments and the fractured relationships in his personal life. He passed away on January 1, 1988, at the age of 79, following complications from surgery.
I have decided to exchange my electrical system to transistors, and I will need yours.
Don Matheson, who played the powerful android IDAK Alpha 12 in Lost in Space, 1965, was 36 years old when he first appeared in the role. IDAK was a loyal, strong, and self-sacrificing android, yet Don's personal life was full of struggles that contrasted sharply with his character's unwavering dedication. Despite a promising start to his career, Don's personal life was marked by emotional turmoil. His marriage to actress Raquel Welch ended in a painful divorce, and this event left him with deep emotional scars that he carried for the rest of his life. Don's career, while steady, never reached the level of fame he had desired, and he found himself battling depression in his later years. In the end, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, a battle that would define his final years. Don passed away on June 29, 2014, at the age of 84. His death was a sad reflection of a man who struggled both with his personal demons and the professional recognition he had hoped for but never fully achieved.
I'm looking for a boy. A boy!
Hoke Howell, who portrayed the diligent security guard in Lost in Space, began his role in 1965 at the age of 36. His character was a dependable and steady presence, always ensuring the safety of the crew amidst the vast unknowns of space. However, Hoke's own life was far less stable. Though his career was steady, his personal life was filled with challenges. He married young, but his relationship ended in divorce, leaving him with a sense of emotional loneliness. Over the years, Hoke struggled with his health, suffering from heart issues that took a toll on both his physical and emotional well-being. Despite his professional success, the emotional scars from his personal life were deeply ingrained. Hoke passed away on May 9, 1997, at the age of 67 from heart failure. His death was a quiet, painful end to a life marked by internal battles, and his passing left those who knew him with a sense of sadness over what could have been a fuller, happier life.
That robot and get him aboard the Jupiter 2.
The robot? Yes, indeed, the robot. I shall attend to it immediately. Sergeant! Snap to and uncrate that robot.
Michael J. Pollard, who played the mischievous boy in Lost in Space, began his role in 1966 at the age of 27. The boy was playful and full of wonder, constantly exploring the universe with a childlike curiosity. But Michael's personal life was marked by loneliness and difficulty in forming lasting relationships. Despite his fame, he struggled with emotional isolation, which took a toll on his mental health. His marriages ended in divorce, and he faced growing bitterness as the years passed. Later in life, his health deteriorated, and he battled heart problems that further isolated him from his peers. On November 20, 2019, at the age of 80, Michael passed away from cardiac arrest. His death was a quiet end to a life that had been full of creative promise but weighed down by personal struggles. While his career had brought him recognition, the pain of isolation and health issues were the darker realities he lived with until his passing.
What's that got to do with anything?
I like riddles.
Don't you understand? I've got to get out of here. If there's a way in, there's just got to be a way out.
That's not a...
Allan Melvin, who portrayed the stern enforcer Claudio in Lost in Space, 1966, was 43 years old when he first took on the role. Claudio was a commanding figure, a man of authority whose actions often put him in direct conflict with the Robinsons. Allan's personal life, much like his character, was marked by emotional distance and rigidity. He was married 3 times, but each marriage ended in divorce, with Allan often blamed for his inability to emotionally connect with his partners. His children became estranged from him, and in his later years, he lived alone, struggling with feelings of isolation. Although his career provided him with steady work, Allan's personal life was filled with heartache and disappointment. His emotional struggles were compounded by a diagnosis of cancer in his later years, and he passed away on January 17, 2008, at the age of 84.
Science! You're Zeno, all right. You've made a science out of cold-blooded murder.
I'm not a murderer. I never killed anyone who didn't try to kill me first. That is, I mean to say, Zeno didn't.
Warren Oates, who portrayed the adventurous Jimmy Hapgood in Lost in Space, joined the cast in 1965 at the age of 37. Jimmy was a free-spirited, rugged astronaut, full of energy and always up for an adventure. However, Warren's personal life was far from the carefree spirit of his character. He struggled with alcoholism and depression, which deeply affected his relationships and career. Despite his immense talent, which earned him praise in films like The Wild Bunch and Two-Lane Blacktop, his emotional struggles led to several failed marriages and growing isolation. The pressures of his career, coupled with his inner turmoil, took a toll on his health, and Warren's ability to find peace seemed just out of reach. On April 3, 1982, at the age of 53, Warren passed away from a heart attack, a tragic end that reflected the pain he had faced throughout much of his life. His death was a stark reminder of how even the brightest talents can be consumed by their inner demons, leaving behind a legacy of both brilliance and sorrow.
B, if you were more familiar with the delicacy of this procedure, you wouldn't ask?
All I know is that I got a star to catch in about 40.
Reta Shaw, who played Aunt Clara Sims in Lost in Space, began her role in 1965 at the age of 53. Aunt Clara was the heart of the show, nurturing, wise, and always ready to offer a helping hand. But Reta's personal life was far from the stability she provided on screen. She had been married, but her relationships were often strained, and her marriage ended in a painful divorce. As the years went on, Reta struggled with health issues, particularly emphysema, which made it difficult for her to maintain the energy she had earlier in her career. Though she continued to work, her physical condition worsened, and she faced increasing loneliness. Her health challenges overshadowed the end of her career, and she became more isolated. Reta passed away on January 8, 1982, at the age of 69 from emphysema, a sorrowful end to a life that had once been filled with both love and pain. Her death left many who had admired her in her role as Aunt Clara with a deep sense of loss, as she had been a symbol of warmth and wisdom for so many.
Later. Now, let's go in here and have a little talk. Just sit right down over here. Now, Will, dear, I know it's great.
Royal Dano, known for his role as the authoritative Major Domo in Lost in Space, 1966, began his role at the age of 44. Major Domo was a strict and disciplined character, commanding respect and order with his no-nonsense attitude. On screen, he was the type of leader who ensured everything ran smoothly, but behind the scenes, Dano's life was marked by personal struggles and loneliness. He married twice, but both relationships ended in turmoil, leaving him emotionally drained. Despite the outward success, Dano's career in the entertainment industry became increasingly difficult, with fewer opportunities in later years. His personal demons grew as his health deteriorated, and his life never seemed to reflect the authority he portrayed. He passed away on May 15, 1994, at the age of 71 from a heart attack, leaving behind a career of minor successes but overshadowed by the melancholy of personal and professional disillusionment.
Yes?
You let my father go or I'll tell the princess!
There is nothing for you to get excited about, young man. Your father has not been...
Strother Martin, who played the shrewd Narum in Lost in Space, joined the cast in 1966 at the age of 47. Narum was a cunning and strategic character, always scheming to manipulate situations for his own advantage. Off-screen, Strother's life was filled with personal turmoil that mirrored the complex character he portrayed. He was married multiple times, but his relationships were strained and ended in divorce. His career, though successful, was marred by emotional struggles, and the pressures of his personal life weighed heavily on him. As Strother entered his later years, he began to suffer from heart problems that compounded his personal difficulties. On August 1, 1980, at the age of 61, Strother passed away from a heart attack. His death was the culmination of a life filled with both artistic triumphs and personal losses. He left behind a legacy of unforgettable roles, but the pain he endured throughout his life cast a long shadow over his achievements.
The sky is always darkest just before the dawn. Every cloud has a silver lining.
It does.
Yes.
Michael Ansara, who portrayed the formidable ruler in Lost in Space, 1966, began his role at 44, bringing a commanding and stoic presence to the character. The ruler was an embodiment of power and control, qualities that Ansara himself struggled to achieve in his personal life. Though professionally accomplished, including a long-lasting marriage to Barbara Eden, his personal life was riddled with heartbreak. His marriage eventually ended in divorce, and his relationship with his son faced strains, particularly due to his intense focus on his career. As Ansara aged, he became increasingly burdened by health problems, and by the end of his life, his battle with Alzheimer's disease took its toll. His final years were marked by a loss of memory and a feeling of helplessness. Ansara passed away on July 31, 2013, at the age of 91, after a prolonged struggle with Alzheimer's, leaving behind a legacy of both strength and sorrow.
acclimatize myself to it. Now, if only I could go back to my own world.
Another time, Dr. Smith. I wish to talk to the father of the boy they call Will.
Oh, yes.
Henry Jones, who played the wise and often tranquil Jeremiah Smith in Lost in Space, 1966, started his role at 54, portraying a character full of insight and wisdom. Jeremiah was the archetypal sage, offering guidance and understanding to those in need. Off-screen, however, Jones struggled with his own personal demons. He had been married twice, both relationships failing to bring him the fulfillment he sought. His first wife left him after years of emotional distance, and his second marriage ended in bitterness and regret. Jones' career was a mixed bag, with some high points, but as he got older, his health began to fail, leading to a sense of disillusionment. His later years were marked by physical decline and loneliness, and his passing came as the culmination of a life full of challenges. On May 17, 1999, at the age of 86, Jones passed away from complications following a fall.
Ah, there, diligently applying yourself, I see, William.
Hi, Colonel Smith.
Don't let me disturb you from your efforts.
Want to do some gardening?
No, thank you. I prefer...
Werner Klemperer, best known for his role as the devious Bollix in Lost in Space, 1966, was 46 when he began playing the manipulative character. Bollix was a clever and calculating figure, always scheming for his personal gain, a reflection of Klemperer's own challenges in finding lasting happiness in life. Despite his success as an actor, Klemperer faced deep personal struggles, including 2 failed marriages and the turmoil that came with them. His first wife left him with deep emotional scars, and his second marriage, though more stable, did not escape the tension of his internal struggles. As he aged, Klemperer's health deteriorated, and he found himself battling cancer. On December 6, 2000, at the age of 80, he passed away from complications of the disease. His death marked the end of a life full of professional acclaim, but overshadowed by the turmoil of his personal life.
Especially yours, Dr. Smith. If that remark is meant as a slur upon my character, I resent it exceedingly.
Sir, if you have a complaint, I suggest you file it with my superiors.
Liam Sullivan, who played the enigmatic Nexus in Lost in Space, 1966, brought a sense of mystery to his role at the age of 43. Nexus was a powerful figure, able to influence events from the shadows, yet Sullivan's own life was far from the cryptic power of his character. After the early success of his acting career, Sullivan faced personal difficulties, particularly in his love life. He married, but the relationship quickly soured, leaving him with emotional scars. His loneliness deepened over time, as did his struggles with health, particularly as his age caught up with him. The years were not kind, and Sullivan's health continued to decline, with heart problems taking a toll. On April 19, 1998, at the age of 74, Sullivan passed away from a heart attack, his death marking the end of a life characterized not only by mystery and power in his roles, but by personal loss and the long shadow of health struggles.
A man of simple virtues, wholehearted loyalties. I am devoted to him. But... yes, but...
Dennis Patrick, who portrayed the golden-skinned manipulator Kima in Lost in Space, 1966, was 48 years old when he began his role. Kima was a charismatic yet deceptive character, skilled in both charm and manipulation, weaving webs of lies to get what he wanted. Dennis, however, found his life far less glamorous than his character's scheming ways. Married twice, he faced the harsh reality of broken relationships, his second marriage ending in divorce after many years of unhappiness. Despite his professional success, Dennis found himself isolated from his children, with emotional wounds that never fully healed. As he aged, his career, too, dwindled into obscurity, and personal challenges mounted, leaving him in a lonely, sad state. In his final years, Dennis lived with the quiet despair of a man whose life had not lived up to the promises made in his younger years. Tragically, Dennis passed away on October 13, 2002, at the age of 84, in a fire at his home.
So stupid and senseless.
My feelings exactly, Mrs. Robinson.
Perhaps I should go after him and try again.
I'm afraid you would only be wasting your time.
Mercedes McCambridge, who brought to life the mystical and enigmatic Sibylla in Lost in Space, 1966, was 50 years old when she first portrayed the character. Sibylla, with her cryptic wisdom and ethereal presence, was a far cry from the turbulent life Mercedes lived off-screen. Though Mercedes was a talented actress, her personal life was marred by tragedy. She had been married twice, but both marriages were fraught with emotional turmoil, and she struggled to maintain a healthy relationship with her children. The deep sense of loss she felt from failed marriages left scars that she couldn't quite heal. Despite a successful career, Mercedes faced the bitter reality of addiction and depression, which overshadowed her later years. Her legacy was overshadowed by her private battles, and she spent her last years living alone, reflecting on her past struggles. Mercedes passed away on March 2, 2004, at the age of 87, from natural causes.
What are you fooling with that stuff for, Ma? You're pretty enough the way you are.
There's always room for a little improvement.
Malachi Throne, who played the resourceful and cunning thief in Lost in Space, 1966, was 38 years old when he took on the role. The thief, always searching for an edge or advantage, was a character driven by opportunism, much like Malachi's life itself. Though his career as an actor was steady, Malachi's personal life was clouded with deep, unresolved issues. Married once, he experienced the pain of a divorce that shattered his faith in love, leaving him struggling with bitterness and loneliness. His acting career, despite being filled with roles in television and film, never truly reached the heights he had hoped for. The emotional scars from his failed marriage stayed with him throughout his life, and as he aged, the shadows of his earlier disappointments grew longer. Malachi, ever the man of mystery on screen, lived the final years of his life in a far more somber reality. He passed away on March 13, 2013, at the age of 84, after a long battle with lung cancer.
Treasures!
Are you going to help me, or do I feed you to the lions?
No! Yes! Let me go!
Good! You made the right decision.
Gerald Mohr, who played the sinister and ruthless Mohrbus in Lost in Space, 1966, was 52 when he first appeared in the role. Mohrbus was driven by dark ambitions and a willingness to sacrifice anything to achieve his goals, characteristics that seemed to reflect the tragic trajectory of Gerald's own life. Despite being a talented actor, Gerald's personal life was plagued by despair and instability. Married twice, he never found the happiness he sought, with both marriages ending in divorce. His struggles with alcoholism only deepened his feelings of isolation, and he often battled a sense of hopelessness as his career faltered. Gerald's professional life was in decline, and his personal demons intensified. At the age of 54, just 2 years after his final appearance on Lost in Space, Gerald died unexpectedly of a heart attack on November 9, 1968. A tragic end to a life marked by personal failures and emotional turmoil, leaving behind a legacy of what might have been.
With your help.
What kind of help?
Well, we can talk about that. There's plenty of time.
Well, if you knew we were here, why didn't you come to our camp?
I had to be sure you were.
John Abbott, who portrayed the intellectual and calculating Sesmer in Lost in Space, 1966, was 61 years old when he began his role. Sesmer was a brilliant, cerebral figure, often using his sharp mind to outwit others in complex situations, but John's own life was far less orderly than the character he portrayed. Despite his impressive career, which spanned over decades in both theater and film, John's personal life was marked by frequent disappointments. He married late in life, but his relationship was filled with strife, and the couple struggled to find common ground. The personal pain of his difficult marriage haunted him, and he found little peace even in his later years. His professional success couldn't shield him from the emotional toll these struggles took, and he was often left to battle loneliness and regret. John passed away on May 24, 1996, at the age of 90, after a long battle with cancer.
Delightful.
Sesmar,
Then you haven't forgotten me.
how could I? Everybody told me I was imagining you. Come on in, and you can prove I wasn't.
Wally Cox, who portrayed the gentle Tiabo in Lost in Space, began his role in 1966 at the age of 42. Tiabo was a kind-hearted and compassionate character, always willing to help others and offering comfort in times of distress. However, Wally's own life was marked by personal challenges that were far more tumultuous than the peaceful role he played. He was often caught in the shadow of his best friend, the larger-than-life actor Marlon Brando, with whom he shared a deep, complicated friendship. Wally's career had its ups and downs, and despite his talent, he struggled to find lasting success beyond Lost in Space. His personal life was marked by the heartbreak of his failed marriage to Barbara Stewart, with whom he had a son. Wally found solace in his friendships, but deep emotional struggles, particularly feelings of isolation and insecurity, plagued him. These struggles affected his health, and in 1973, at the age of 48, Wally succumbed to a heart attack.
They're doing just as I planned.
James Westerfield, known for playing the charismatic Dr. Marvello in Lost in Space, took on the role in 1966 at the age of 53. Dr. Marvello was a charming, persuasive character, always capable of captivating those around him with his charisma and ability to manipulate. But James's personal life was less charming. Despite his on-screen persona, he faced emotional hardships throughout his life. His career had seen many ups and downs, from film roles to television appearances, but by the time he starred in Lost in Space, his professional life was in decline. James struggled with alcoholism, a battle that tore apart his family life. He had been married twice and had children, but his marriages ended in divorce. His troubled relationships and growing isolation from his family mirrored the manipulative nature of the character he portrayed. On September 20, 1971, James died at the age of 58 from a heart attack, a sad and untimely death that followed years of personal turmoil and inner demons.
Miracles, my friend. Why, with that boy in our troupe, we could set the entire Andromeda circuit on its collective ear. I may call upon your services again.
Torrin Thatcher, who portrayed the shrewd space trader in Lost in Space, began his role in 1966 at the age of 61. The space trader was a calculating, opportunistic character who was always looking for ways to profit from his interactions with others. But Torrin's own life was far less opportunistic. He had built a long career in theater and film, but the later years of his life were overshadowed by personal and financial struggles. Despite his acclaim in stage productions and films such as The Sea of Grass and The Old Man Who Cried Wolf, Torrin's personal life was fraught with difficulties. He had been married twice, and both marriages ended in divorce, leaving him estranged from his children. His financial situation deteriorated in his later years, and his career, while respected, never reached the heights he had hoped for. In 1981, at the age of 76, Torrin passed away from cancer.
No difficulty in persuading him to come with you.
None whatsoever. The robot trusts me implicitly.
Oh, yes. Like a brother, eh?
John Carradine, who portrayed the wise Archon in Lost in Space, began his role in 1967 at the age of 61. Archon was a sagacious and knowledgeable character, offering wisdom and guidance to those in need. But John's personal life was marked by constant struggle and turmoil. Despite his immense talent and long career in Hollywood, John faced personal losses that overshadowed his professional success. He had been married several times, but each marriage ended in divorce, and he had children from these unions who were often estranged. His career had seen incredible highs with roles in classic films like Stagecoach and The Grapes of Wrath, but by the time he joined Lost in Space, his career was on the decline. John's personal life was filled with emotional pain, particularly stemming from his troubled relationships with his children. His health, too, suffered as he grew older, with multiple illnesses affecting him in his final years. On November 27, 1988, at the age of 82, John Carradine passed away from heart and kidney failure.
Leave us. No, not for any selfish reasons.
But she was herself safe. She has the amulet. Nothing can harm her. I don't understand all this.
Who is your favorite character in Lost in Space? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.